Hey everybody, welcome to AppHacks. AppHacks. My name is Jeremy Bill. I am the developer advocate at Squid. So today we're going to welcome back for the actually second time, correct, Becca?
No, this is my first time with you
Oh,
guys.
this is the first time? Oh, wow, my
First
goodness. All right.
time.
First time. So I'd like to introduce Becca Dente. She's the Salesforce MVP as well as the principal consultant at Purple Insight. So before we get started, Becca, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My journey into the Salesforce world started as a sales rep. So I was a BDR at a company that heavily leveraged Salesforce. And when their sales ops team was growing from one person to two people, I raised my hands. That was way back in the day before sandboxes even existed and validation rules weren't a thing. So I've been doing this for quite some time and spent several years there learning the ins and outs of Salesforce, and then went on to some Fortune 500 companies, some other growth size startup places. Spent some time at a Salesforce ISV, and now I ended up in the world of consulting. So that's the abbreviated version of my story.
Thanks for sharing. And from sounds like you have quite a resume. That's awesome. So real quick, can you tell us about the journey of where you are today, what are in the ecosystem today? Like some of your
Yeah,
highlights? Yeah.
yeah. So, I took the experience I have gained working with all size companies. I had worked at companies as small as 20-ish people, all the way up to, like I said, a Fortune 500 company. I spent some time at Iron Mountain, helping with their global rollout of Salesforce, which was so huge and very intricate, and there was a lot going on there. And so I took this wealth of experience, and when I was trying to figure out what did I want to be when I grow up, I really like doing the work in Salesforce. I like figuring out the problem, coming up with a solution, and implementing that solution. And if you're internal at a company, what I found is they want to, progress in your career and have you become a manager of people. And when you're a manager of people, you don't get to do the things anymore. And I still love doing the things. And that, naturally led me to consulting and opening up my own consulting shop. So even in the larger consultancies, you end up being a people manager or a project manager, and I still love getting my hands dirty in Salesforce. So I started my own consulting company, and that allows me to work with my customers, do that problem solving, allow them to have a resource of someone with my years of experience, my depth of experience, while not breaking the bank. And so I still get to do that for all of my clients, which is what I really love to do. I love being hands-on with the platform.
Awesome. And I'm sure that you're consulting and everything that you're doing. Can you go into how many projects you have in your backlog? You have
Yeah, that's one of the really interesting things about consulting, because you're not only trying to help each client prioritize and manage their backlog and figure out, their priorities, but you also have to manage your load of work across your clients. And so as a solo consultancy, that part gets really tricky. And so I tips and tricks for doing that. One thing is I like to be really upfront and clear about the time things will take to accomplish. And that's really helpful for my clients too, because when working with a consultant, time is money. So, if perfect example, one of my clients asked for something that they thought would be a small change. They wanted, a field that did XYZ.
Mhm.
And I said to them, I know it sounds simple and what you're asking for seems like it's going to be really easy, but it's actually going to take me 5 hours low end to build that. So is it really worth it to you to get that done? And they're like, ooh, no, like that's not something we need. And so really getting good at scoping things and helping your clients understand, you know, the level of effort it will take to accomplish, and helping them figure out their priorities. So this one thing could take 5 hours, but it's a super high priority, and this other thing could take 2 hours, but we don't really need that right now. And so being really transparent with my clients or with end users about the size of what they're asking for, and helping them determine the urgency around that really helps me balance my workload.
Nice. So going into a little bit about, so it sounds like you do a really good job of managing the expectations and just being upfront. So with that being said, so as you're starting to implement some of these strategies and just reprioritizing, what do you do with some of your like your downtime after that? So let's just say you get done with the project sooner than that allotted time. What do you do with that extra gap of free time?
Free time. One of the things, you know, a good consultant won't burn through money that their clients don't want them to burn through. But you know, I will use time, say, you know, we finished this, we scoped 20 hours for this, we finished it in 14. We have this extra bucket of time, and I'll give my clients some options. You know, do you want me to do training? Do you want me to do over the shoulder time with the end users while they're using this new feature? Over the shoulder time, and this goes for consultants, this goes for internal admins. I think it goes for anyone who's customizing any product really, but specifically with Salesforce, is you sometimes don't see to the finish line how people are actually using what you've designed and implemented. Mm-hmm. And they could be, you built something that you think is super efficient, really great, but you do a one-time training with them, or you know, you put together a training doc and it doesn't get communicated effectively, or it does, but then people forget. Doing over the shoulder time is incredibly useful to see where not only the thing you implemented, but across the board, how are my users using this system? What are they doing? And where can I help them do that better? Because we think, oh, we built this, it's great, people are going to use it and love it, and it saves them 10 clicks, but they're not using it the way that we designed, and they're actually adding 14 clicks or whatever it is. And so just spending time observing your end users has been a super powerful tool for me, specifically for things that I've implemented, but also just to see their workflow and their process and how they're using the system. And I can then advise my clients, say, actually, you know, we're not using, you know, the most advanced search offering, or we should really think about doing X, Y, and Z over here to make the process more efficient for your end users. So over the shoulder time, which these days I guess would be like Zoom time, with end users, is like, I have done this with so many of my clients. One of my clients right now, we just have weekly office hours. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people just come to see what other people are asking about. And so we do a screen share and people walk me through what they're doing. And sometimes there are people there who don't have questions, but they're like, I just want to see what other people are asking about. So having that regular cadence of check-in with my end users really helps me then troubleshoot and be able to provide suggestions proactively instead of waiting for a client to say, oh, this thing looks broken. And I think that can be applied, you know, to consultants as well as to in-house admins, and even not admins, developers too. Like, we build things all the time and we think people know how to use them, but sometimes our design isn't what the user's expectations are. So it's a little bit of an ego check, but it's really a great thing to sit down and just see how people are interacting with the tools that you give them.
Nice. And just like a quick derail. So 'cause I
Yeah.
know well, you have to balance both roles. And I love the fact that you're really focused on the end users. Actually, I was talking to another Squid employee. We are just saying it shouldn't be the end users, but the start users, since that's the main focus. And so with that being said, how do you balance the two worlds of when the engineer's like, no, this is what we have to have, and you being in the trenches per se, like, no, this is really what they want. Like, how do you like chaperone that like dance? We understand this is what you think we should have as a technical requirement, but this is what the end user think, and actually it could just be more efficient for the product in the long term. So how do you balance those two worlds out in your day to day?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Because, end users oftentimes don't understand technical requirements. That's not their job. And the back end folks don't really understand how end users need to interact with the data. So in an operations role, which is really what I'm filling for all of my clients, and what my career history has been, you are the person that has to understand both sides of this coin. And so it's really on you to be able to translate the technical requirements and to take the end user requirements and sort of finesse the end design. And so I've been lucky that I have, on the technical side, if I'm not doing it, I have really great people who, we have a very open dialogue, lots of transparency. I think that's gonna be a theme in my answers, but like being transparent about, I understand that that's going to work best, but what the end users need is slightly different, and and sort of finessing and adjusting until there's something that works for both parties. I know that may not be a very specific answer, but in this role that we play, we have to be the ones who find that balance. And really, my sort of going back to my roots, I come from the role of the BDR. So I'm the one who had to make 100 calls a day and had to churn through leads in Salesforce and opportunities and like get through as many clicks as possible. And I was the one using the system for 8+ hours a day. And so I have sympathy for those folks. And when we make their job really painful or really hard to do, um, that cascades down, right? So like if we're thinking about the SDR who is in there 8 hours a day, who really is filling the top of the funnel for the sales team, we have to make their jobs as frictionless as possible. And whatever we can do on the back end, I have this philosophy of if it takes me longer to build, so if it takes me, I could do something easy and hacky in an hour, or I could build something really great and scalable in 8 hours. I'm going to do that because that's a one-time thing. And if I'm saving my end users 5 minutes with every lead that they are working with, or 2 minutes every time they have to edit an opportunity, those add up across your user base. And over time, I would rather take the heavy work on the back end and do it once and do it right, so that my end users can be more efficient. Even if it's only, a minute here, a minute there, that will add up and in the long run, save everyone time and money and make us all more efficient. So that's really my driving philosophy. Now, sort of harkening back to that point that I made earlier, if it's a lot of work for, this would be nice to have, like that's not a great use of time or money. But if it's a lot of work and it's going to make end users' lives better, make the data input better, make just processing what they do in their job on a day-to-day basis better and easier, let's take the time to build it once and build it right.
Nice. And I'm a it kind of, or you hit a point that follows into the next question. So with when you're building that the big tool, like just taking all the back end, Out of all the Salesforce like tools in your your utility pack or your utility bag, what helps you save the most time as you're developing a project like that?
Ooh, oh, that's a great question. All the tools in my bag, what helps me save the most time? Uh, I am sort of stumped. One of the biggest things that I have found for myself is just staying organized, like a project management tool. So I can stay organized, be aware of deadlines, and make sure that I'm completing things when I've promised them to my client. So it's not so much a time saver as it is like keeping myself organized.
Mhm.
And I do that in a tool called Sunsama.
Ooh.
So it's a browser or desktop based tool, but it allows me to organize my tasks by due date, by client, and really it's a time blocking tool, so I can block off time for my different meetings. Probably the hardest part, I think, working in today's world, especially in the COVID world, is finding time to actually do work. The culture right now is so meeting focused that sometimes I'll have days where it'll just be meetings back to back, and I don't have time to actually work on anything that I've asked, that my clients have asked for, that I've committed to. And that's
Mhm.
probably the biggest productivity killer in my world. So I use Sunsama to help me with my time blocking. And then I also use a tool called Clockwise. So Clockwise, you use it Clockwise?
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love
Yes.
Clockwise.
Yes. So anyone who doesn't have Clockwise should definitely get it, because especially, I mean, it probably is more helpful for you than it is for me. So I don't have coworkers, so it can't move around those meetings, but it does help me block off big chunks of my day for what Clockwise calls focus time. And so it shows as blocked. My clients can't book time with me then, and I can actually find time to do the work instead of just talk about doing the work. And so that, to me, I think has been the biggest improvement in my efficiency, is when I started using Clockwise, because you know, when people see an open spot on your calendar, they're going to grab it. Clockwise, if they see, I have it set up for 2 hours or more, if they see that, they will block it and be like, this is your focus time. No one can book meetings with you here. Great. That means I get to work and actually get stuff done for my clients instead of being stuck in meetings. So it's not really, I don't know if you would call that an efficiency tool, but it really helps me be more productive in my day to have those chunks of time blocked out for me to work.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it is, because I know for myself, because if you organize out your day, especially using a tool like Clockwise, you can understand what is, as she said earlier, what is the most important, and then work your way down. And that's kind of how I have mine set up. And I love using the email that they send you, like they just
Yes.
like your weekly analytics. I think
Yes.
it's so cool. I'm like, oh man. But sometimes I do go back and look at the actual meetings. I'm like, all right, well, how can we minimize this for next time? If it's taking up 40% of my week, what were these about? How can we make this more efficient so I can use that time to work towards your product?
Yeah, exactly. I think, and one thing that we should let people know about Clockwise, it doesn't work for me because I'm just myself. But what it does is helps you find those bigger time blocks by rescheduling meetings that you have with your coworkers if they find a more efficient time. So it helps everyone have more of those working blocks of focus time on their calendar, which is just fantastic. And I mean, I'm of the mindset that a lot of meetings could have been an email or an asynchronous Slack discussion,
Mhm.
but sometimes people want to get you on the phone, and that's totally fine. And sometimes you really do need a meeting. But when I can find like 2 3 hour chunks of time to just heads down and work, um, and not be interrupted, like that's the other thing. Like if you have your morning free, but a 30-minute meeting in the middle of that whole free morning, like your whole work like process is thrown off. And so, let's move that meeting to the top or the bottom of your block and then give you that uninterrupted work time. So much better.
Uh, but I know, so real quick, I have one more question. I know we're coming short on time, but can you give us two or three advice, insights, or tidbits for viewers to help them be more efficient besides using clockwise in their journey?
Yeah, I think one of the things that has really helped me um, is setting realistic time goals. So, you know, someone asks for something, and sure, if they're asking for a field or a report, like those things really only take 5 minutes of actual time to do them. But you have to remember, oh, I've got another call after this one. Oh, I have a bunch of emails I have to get back to. And so instead of saying, yeah, I can get that to you as soon as we get off the phone, saying, yeah, I can get that to you by end of day or by tomorrow morning, not because the actual thing takes a lot of time, but fitting it into your day may take some time. So that's not so much an efficiency tip, but it is organize your mind tip.
Mhm.
The other thing about in terms of efficiency is time blocking. So I like to use time blocking to say, I'm going to work on this client's stuff and open items on this client for this 2 hour block that I have. And then I have another 90-minute block here. I'm going to work on this client's stuff, because task switching between orgs, trying to take care of all of the immediate priorities, ends up taking longer. And if you time block and say, I'm going to focus on this one specific project for this entire time, and when I'm done, then I move on to the other project, even though they're both urgent, you'll be more efficient within each of those blocks because your brain isn't shifting gears. And finally, shout out to another Salesforce MVP, Matt Bertuzzi, for teaching me about the Pomodoro timer. So essentially what you do is you set yourself a timer. You say, let's say 25 minutes or 55 minutes, and you heads down focus on the task. Then for those remaining 5 minutes, you check your email, get your snack, refill your water. So you really say, I'm heads down focused on this time. And then I also have time to like do my personal stuff, check Twitter, check Instagram, get a snack, whatever. And you know that it's coming at the end of the time block. You know it's coming at the end of the 55 minutes or the end of the 25 minutes. And so you don't get distracted while you're working on your task. You say, I put that over there. When my timer goes off, and there's several Chrome plugins to get a Pomodoro timer, then you don't get distracted by those things while you're working, which happens. But giving myself no, you can check those things when we get to the end of the block really helps me focus and get the task at hand done, not be distracted by, pings from Slack or emails that I see coming in. Like all of those things can wait until the end of this 55-minute block. Then I'll check Slack, then I'll check, email, get a water, whatever it is. And it helps me focus and be more productive in my time blocking.
Right. And it's funny that you said that. So just to add a little bit on to what you said as well, one thing that I do at the end of my focus like block periods, I do give myself like very similar to like, like checking emails, I'll just write down, I was like, give myself like 5-10 minutes of, all right, before I move to the next test, like what do I have left? And what's the next step for that? Because I think at the end of the day, I believe now I'm like starting to see the theme here, especially as we were talking about efficiency, is like time management. That really is what helps. Because if your mind's scattered, you're just hopping, then it's not efficient. It's actually doing more harm versus like.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just don't beat yourself up if it doesn't get done. Obviously, you know your own deadline, you know your own schedule. Like, no, it's okay. I was able to get it to that next step, and then I was able to get that to that next step, and then just keep going from there, and that will help execute like a lot of the tasks.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah, but honestly, Becca, thank you so much for this call, and I do want to announce the winner for the raffle, and it is Elena O'Neill. So congratulations, you have a gift coming your way. And with that being said, thank you so much and pleasure.
Thank you, Jeremy. This has been great. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, likewise. You take care. All right. Talk to you later.
All right.